These graphs show the depreciation of a car using the straight line method and the declining balance method. Bless you. What was the purchase price? Okay, so that starts off easy. Purchase price, where do you read it off? Yeah, good. In the linear modeling terms that you already know, I guess you'd call that the y-intercept, right? That's your initial, that's your start value. Okay, so purchase price. That's bless you, V naught, right? That's equal to $15,000. Okay, reasonable assumption. Keep going. Part B. What's the value of the car after a year using each method? Okay, so where's a year? Here's our time axis going down the bottom, right? So a year, I'm going to look at these values here. Okay, so I can see the values, but this is why I wanted it really nice and big. If you squint at yours, if you've got it in front of you, you can see actually these dots, right? They're kind of approximate, right? See how each of these squares is how much? Each square is 1,000, right? So you go 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, so on, okay? So you can see this blue line, which is declining balance, I think we can reasonably say the declining balance after 1 year, looks like it's pretty much bang on 11,000. I think that's reasonable. Okay. Okay. When you get to the straight line, right? It's a little bit sneakier because have a think about it. What looks like the best answer, based on what we can see? Looks like about 12,000, doesn't it? I think that's reasonable. The graph is not really big enough in order to get a much more accuracy than that. But just think through this, the consequences of it with me, okay? If it was 12,000, right? How much value has it lost in that first year? It went from 15, right, down to 12, so it's lost 3,000, right? So what would you expect it to be the year after that? You went from 15,000, right? You go 1 year down to 12, so then you'd expect it after that to be 9, right? Is that where it is? And you're looking across, and actually now you can clearly see it's off. And the further you go, if I go another year, I should be at 6,000, right? And you're like, oh no, I'm way off. I'm way off. So clearly, unfortunately for us, 12,000 is not the exact value, which is why if you turn into your textbook at the back, it will not tell you 12,000. It will tell you, I think, something like 12,200, okay? But you need to know, like off this graph, you can't really see that. All of these readings are going to be approximate, right? But that's okay, that's okay. Depreciation is always approximate. Just think about this. Who says that a car should lose exactly, well, what was it? Exactly $2,800 per year. Where does that number come from? It's like, oh yeah, well, there was that time I bumped into that lamp pole, that was $500. There's this, the aircon doesn't quite cool the car down quickly enough, that'll be $3,000, whatever, right? All these numbers are manufactured, right? They're approximate, but they're pretty close. They'll give us a general idea, and that's all we need to do, right? So in fact, I'm quite happy, and within an exam, right, if you get given a graph like this, then you can say, look, the straight line value, right, using this model, should really say it's approximately equal to this, and this is approximately equal to 12,000. I think that's within a reasonable amount of accuracy for this graph, okay? Obviously, if you get more grid lines on it and more labels, you can do it to more accuracy. But I think that's fine. Next question. When is the car worth $8,000 for each method? Okay, $8,000, that's here. Okay, so if I track across, I actually have a point for that, which is nice and convenient. So according to the declining balance depreciation, this is part C, declining balance, it's going to be after 2 years. Okay, if I go straight line, where am I reading off? What do I have to do? Where do I have to look on the graph? Let's wake it up, shall we? I'm gonna have to keep going, aren't I? Right? Here's my 8,000, right? And it's just gonna keep on going until I hit the straight line. There we go. Okay. Which looks to me like, how would you read that? About 2.5, right? So 2 years and 6 months, I guess. But again, approximately, okay? When I say that, it's a bit funny because we don't really calculate depreciation on monthly bases anyway. We only do it after a whole year. There's no point doing it, how much have I depreciated this week? There's no point, right? Part D. When is the book value the same for each type of depreciation? Okay, so have a look. What point on the graph am I after? The intersection, right? So it looks like it's about, thereabouts. So where would you call that? Something like 3 years and, I don't know, maybe 8 months? That would be, what would that be? That would be 9 months there, wouldn't it? Because you go 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, so it's between 6 and 9. I call that 8. Again, it's approximate, okay? So I'm going to say same depreciation after approximately, what do we say? 3 years, 8 months. And there'll be a margin for error there, which is acceptable, okay? Okay, part E. When is the greatest difference in book values? Now, I'm going to pause for a second and I'll rub off some stuff off my graph so that you can see a bit more clearly. Where do you think you would interpret this to be? The greatest difference between the book values, okay? Now, difference between the book values, right? What does that represent? How would you word that? If you had to describe to someone, I want you to look for this particular thing on the graph, how would you phrase it? What geometric feature am I looking for? Yeah, I'm looking for a vertical distance between the blue and the red, right? So I'm looking at these distances. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So when you put it like that, quite clearly, it looks like it's 5, right? However, the textbook does not say 5. The textbook actually says, now you could say 6, but there's a problem there, right? You can see that the straight line method has already given you $0, and even though the car might be bad, it's not going to be so bad that you have to pay someone to get rid of it, okay? So therefore, this is where it ends, right? What they're actually after, this is a bit funny, right? They're looking for somewhere around here. Now, so I think their answer is somewhere between 2.5 and 3 years, okay? Now here's my question to you. Number one, the question is not phrased great. Could have been phrased less ambiguously. But why do you think actually this is where they're interested and not so much after here? Okay, firstly, it's before the intercept, right? So that's important. Now, why would before the intercept and after the intercept, why would they mean something to me? And I want you to remember, why is depreciation important to calculate? I had it on the board a second ago, I just rubbed it off, right? For you, or me, I would say my car is depreciated this much and I put it on a form so that I get a tax refund, right? That's the whole point, okay? So therefore, I want to know at what point am I going to get the most benefits, right, to continue doing it in this way. So it looks like I'm going to continue getting the most benefits around about here, right? After this amount of time, and some people might know this because, maybe their parents have done this recently, right? This point in time is actually a magical, important time for buying cars, right? This is a really important time. It's a good thing to buy cars around this age because, let's put yourself in the position of a buyer, right? You don't want to buy a car over here at this point in time. Why not? Most expensive. I just don't have access to that money, okay? But at the same time, you don't want to buy a car over here if you can help it because that car's really old and it's a bomb, right? And it stops working. So there's some happy medium in between where you balance between the cost and the quality value of the car, right? Where's that medium spot? Well, it turns out to be about here. And this is where if your family has like a company car or something like that, right? Companies will often sell their company cars at this magical spot because they've depreciated as much as they can out of it. And if they wait much longer, they're not getting much of a tax benefit, okay? Because these distances are small, right? So that's the significance of this point, and that's why the answer in the textbook is actually looking for a value over here, not a value over here. But I think the answer to the question as they phrase it is 5.